Hello and welcome to this CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. By joining or scheduling a hangout, you can ask questions, work through tutorials, share ideas, or pair program on open source projects. Today we're going to be working on the Western Friend magazine and community website. The current task is to add a recurring subscription feature. Previously we've added the ability to not only publish magazine issues, but allow people to subscribe to the magazine so that the magazine Western Friend can get some recurring income. The subscription model is pretty simple. You get access to the latest 3 issues as a subscriber. Everything else is open to the general public. The way subscriptions are currently implemented, though, it's a one-off transaction. You pay for like a 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year subscription, and then it's the responsibility of the subscriber to come back and renew their subscription. So we'd like to minimize the churn or lost revenue through people's, forgetting to renew or whatever the reasons might be. If we have auto renewal, then people will be more prone to continue their subscription, and we're going to not only create an automatically renewing subscription page, but give people the ability to either manage the subscription on the Western Friend website or through their PayPal interface. Currently we're looking at PayPal. We've been working with Braintree for a while, but hit some kind of basic roadblocks that we're not really sure if it's going to be a good fit in the long run with regards to recurring subscriptions. So sorry, I'm a little bit jumbled, but it'll start to make more sense as I experiment, hopefully, and do the code. I want to mention this is not a tutorial. This is a live coding session. I'll be figuring things out as I go. All of the code for this project is open source on GitHub. We are on Western Friend, github.com/westernfriend. So if there's something in this project that you might find useful for your own project, do feel free to check us out, and you can take the code and use it. We've got quite a lot of features. It's a full-fledged website. It's not a tutorial project, and it's been a while in the making. So without further ado, let's take a look. I've got a basic subscription form. Now the mock-up I presented to Mary Klein allows people to choose the format, PDF, paper, or both PDF and paper, as well as potentially a discount. Now regular cost would be essentially 100% the cost of producing and publishing the paper for that subscriber based on an anticipated number of average subscribers. What we're calling true cost is actually the subscription cost plus an option, like an added donation. So it's more true cost to support Western Friend as an organization. Western Friend is a nonprofit, 501c3, so they need pretty much a steady revenue stream as well as any other organization. The last thing would be discounts for low-income persons. I believe get a 50% discount, something like that, and an international pays a little bit more for postage. Now, hypothetically, what's going to happen here, if I can figure it out, is this form will be dynamically calculating the price. PayPal doesn't by default allow this this secondary option to affect the price of the checkout. We would need two factors in the price, so I'll have to probably introduce a little JavaScript library to do that in a reactive manner. But what PayPal does give us is essentially a way to dynamically change the subscription parameters at runtime, so that when we submit this form, it'll send PayPal the correct price and subscription data via HTML form variables. I'll just open this over here. This is at least the approach I'm going to try this session. It's not very optimized for mobile screen. I'm just not super excited to be working with PayPal. I'll just divulge, but in case, here we are. This is the deal. I mean, tablet interfaces do work. I guess they assume that everybody's on a super wide screen as a developer, and honesty, I am, but the context as I'm sharing, I have 2 windows side by side, so even though I'm streaming on a second monitor, I still need, where I would normally have the documentation on the second monitor. I don't know, it's just, we have a responsive design for a reason. And so that's kind of a poor sign, like a poor attention to detail. If I had my druthers, we'd be using Stripe. Just the documentation and the developer experience looks really excellent. And we've tried with Braintree, which is now a subsidiary of PayPal, and the developer experience was so-so, but there were some fundamental limitations with Braintree that so far we have not been able to get around. I've got an open thread with their support. Namely, the way you have to, for any recurring transaction in Braintree, you have to define a subscription. So if we wanted a recurring donation, we have to define that as a subscription, like a donation subscription. So we just got to kind of bend our domain model to the Braintree domain model, when all we need is really a recurring transaction, to be honest. In that case, the magazine is a subscription. It makes sense metaphorically, and in our domain language that we're using to develop the Western Friend, we are using also subscriptions as can be seen here. But these things matter. They create friction, and just a little lack of attention to detail like developer documentation, that stuff is significant, even though it might just seem superfluous. All right, so what we're going for is we're going to have a form here that has some hidden inputs that essentially are the optional subscription types, with a price attribute and a period, so 1 year, a yearly period, and recurring every year. What I'm starting to think is that I might just be able to get by with only one hidden option for PayPal and just use JavaScript to dynamically change the value of the option there. We'll take a look if that's possible, but first I just need to get an understanding of how the PayPal HTML form works, and then how our website will receive notification that the payment succeeded. Likewise, that subsequent payments succeeded or failed, so that we can adjust the subscription, because it's controlling access control. It's opening the gate to allow people to access the most recent issues. So we need to be notified of success or failure of payment. If it were just a print publication, we wouldn't need any kind of instant payment notification. Now, ideally, I would do all of this from kind of Python. I could do it from the server side. And in fact, that's the way Braintree was working with a single one-off transaction. Their Python SDK allows me to get an immediate response, callback. I can do things more or less synchronously on the server side, at least with one transaction. Recurring transactions would still need like a webhook endpoint to receive notifications. When looking at the PayPal documentation for their Python SDK, it's looking like a similar design to Braintree, where we can do it programmatically, but where we would need to define subscription tiers and then generate a list of those. And I couldn't really, we don't want to send this whole list of like 12 subscription types, permutations of the medium, paper, PDF, or both, as well as 4 different options. It's just a big list, and it's awkward. Now, I may be wrong on this, but as far as I can tell, okay. To do these recurring payments, I suppose we would need this. Check out V2 API 2020. We would need this V2 payments. This is a little better. I'll accept the cookies. And what we want to do is try to get a recurring payment without the accoutrement of all the having to define subscription types, permutations. The original were billing plans, but now we have subscriptions on their V2. Let me go back to V2 payments. I will go full screen because we're not doing any coding right now. I thought I accepted those cookies. I don't know if my browser is rejecting the cookies. Yeah, the only thing that's remotely relating to a recurring payment here would be the subscriptions. And what I think happens is that engineers start to design, SDKs and APIs, and we lose simplicity. We kind of make people shoehorn sort of our own domain models into their projects and products. Now this HTML variables API is by no means simple. It is a little bit, it's tricky, but it is very flexible and it's designed to allow just one-click, subscribing or payments and things like that. And it's been really one of the only ways I've found that you can set just recurring payments arbitrarily, whether it's a donation or they have just some payment variables. So we would put our business name, the name of the recurring subscription, currency code, and then you have some that are ambiguous but nonetheless relatively straightforward variables here. I guess they're just short for brevity, although I prefer explicitness to code golf, or sort of it's just markup or machine, code languages I think can be a little bit more verbose. We're not really trying to shave off kilobytes or bytes even. If you're saving a few character strokes over the network. Any case, so you have your period of recurrence. I'm not going to accept those cookies anymore. Whether or not you want a trial period. What the value is, and even PayPal has a form designer. Oh, well, wait a minute. It's a button generator. It's in a form. I'm just going to look at the donations one to see if it has a quick check mark for recurring. I don't think I have any plugins on Chromium that are blocking these cookies. All right, so we've got a subscription form, and we'll just call it and what I'm going to try is just no drop-down menu. I'm going to look at the hidden fields and see if I can control those via JavaScript with my own drop-down menus. Let's just say, so we have something billing cycle is 1 year and 10 So now we have a basic button, and it just looks like subscribe, which is cool. And hopefully we can just change our own button graphic, usually like a bootstrap button or whatever. The problem is also that the DOM is subject to manipulation, so we have to kind of validate all this on the server side. So it's not ideal. I would rather be using like a Python SDK or something like that, or a REST API. But we need to use their version 2, I believe. And we don't want to create plans necessarily in PayPal. We essentially want to create a recurring payment, not a subscription. I just don't want to get involved with all this. Having PayPal, needing to know about our subscription packages at all, if possible. Just for simplicity, not that it's anything secret or otherwise. And maybe that's the case. Maybe that's how this would work. Because another thing with this method, the generated button sends the payment information directly to PayPal. PayPal handles the transaction. On success, it'll send us instant payment notification, at which point we will validate the amounts were correct and whatnot. I would rather have the user submit the form, go to our server, we validate that the form was correct, not manipulated, then run the transaction against PayPal and get a response directly back, an asynchronous response or whatever, synchronously in code, so blocking would probably be okay. But the thing is, I just want to simply say, hey PayPal, here's a recurring payment, here's some metadata about it, the cost, how often it should recur, and maybe a name, an attribute that we can track against our own internal purposes, such as who gets PDF, who gets paper. Okay, we need all these paper subscriptions to be mailed out. Hey, Imperium, welcome. All right, everything's working. Chat's working on the stream. Have you worked with PayPal, Imperium? PayPal via code, at least. So it seems like I would hope I could do just maybe this all will work just with a regular create subscription. I'm just afraid that this plan ID has to exist already on PayPal's side, but that might not be the case. Yeah, okay, I'm a noob too. Always a noob. How have you been lately? What have you been up to? I might just be able to do a test call. All right, so I see that was just for, I was wondering about that. So it's like our own tracking ID. Oh, cool. What Udemy course are you taking? I got a few of those that I've been taking over time. Well, let's just try this in our what is it? Postwoman. I thought I had installed that. Django course, excellent. Which one is it? Are you taking the Django for Entrepreneurs, or is it what's the name of that guy? He does really good courses. I can't remember. Oh, okay, it looks like Postman is working right here on the browser, but I would like to actually download it. Okay. All right, progressive web app. Sounds good. Then I can open a new tab. I can go to here. No. Okay, PWS. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's over here. Crazy. Craziness. Django 3, full stack. Very cool. Oh, yeah, Jose. Good. That's what I was trying to think of. He's really good. He's probably my favorite techie instructor on Udemy. Really clear. His slides and the content is really well polished. He's easy to understand. He doesn't move too fast through the materials. Very cool. All right. They do real-time APIs here, GraphQL. Very cool. So, for authentication, okay, headers, basic auth, bearer token. I'll put my bearer token there. Just afraid I'm going to dox myself here. Well, it's okay. I can reissue it, I believe. Let me see here. So, how do we get this authorization bearer token? Oh, actually, I need that open. So I've got this subscriptions API open twice. HTML variables I might come back to. I'll just pin it real quick. Source code. We might use this PayPal integration plugin. It's in maintenance mode, but it looks like it's going to handle IPN and stuff like that. So let's pin that for a minute. And then here's our placeholder subscribe page. So let's just see how we get this access token. I'm going to do it with curl for a minute. I'm not familiar enough with Postwoman to like open new collections or environments. Though it does look like it's got some pretty cool. So I can have like a PayPal it's a collection. Open a new folder. It's pretty cool looking. Environment variables, notes. All right, just let me do curl though. All right. This is going to be a temporary. Yeah, that's true. I'm not worried about you, Imperium, to be honest. I probably shouldn't be worried at all because this is all, it's in the sandbox account and everything like that. But you never know. And I'm going to upload it to YouTube. It's temporary authentication. All right, let's just go ahead and get an access token then. Some of this stuff is not as temporary like my client ID secret. That's over here in my sandbox account, which I just had open, but it expired. All right, API count. How do I get my apps and credentials? Found it. Just learning, navigating the universe. Show me the secret. No, really. Show me the secret. Yeah, my secret hasn't changed since 2019. So that might be something of concern. All right, so I need this. Just gonna pop this in the script over here, then I can just invoke it. The secret. Oh, we need the client ID and the secret. Yes, of course. All right, we've got a new file in the project folder, which is here. Just put it in get ignore real quick. All right, now I think I can just over here. Okay, now we got to set up a bearer token. Now we can go over to postwoman and put that big old thing there. All right, all right, all right. Looking good. Now we want to it's not too bad, but it scrunches a little bit. It'd be nice to collapse this sidebar. All right, so the request would be a post to right here. Application JSON, got the bearer token. Request ID is optional. The data, the body is JSON. Let's see if I got that first quote. I didn't. Okay. Headers, response. So that should work. And then we don't need probably that stuff. Just for clarity, I want to have as little as possible. We would want some subscriber details. Here we go. Plan ID. So let's just see. I have not created any plans. Let's just try magazine subscription 1. If this lets us put in arbitrary plan IDs, we're gravy. This would be great. And then 2020 July 7th or 6th, so it's already subscribed. Or 7th. We need one of those, or just one. Shipping amount. How do we do recurrence? Start time quantity. Auto renewal. All right, let's try it. 400. All right, let's just try. Their exact example. All right, so it might be the fact that I'm saying raw input. Hey, what's up, Rich? How are you doing? Doing some PayPal today. We were using the Braintree in this project previously, which is a subsidiary of PayPal, to do one-off subscriptions, but we were realizing we need them to recur. We need this, keep the steady stream of subscriber revenue if possible. It's a nonprofit organization, but like any organization, you need a steady stream of revenue. And Braintree makes it a little bit difficult the way their domain model is structured to handle recurring subscriptions and recurring donations. So we're just kind of defaulting back to PayPal to give it a try. I think I'd rather be using Stripe, to be honest. Or Braintree support might be able to help me get through the problem I was having with the fact that recurring donations and recurring subscriptions are lumped into the same kind of subscriptions concept. And all we need is a recurring transaction. Rich, have you worked with PayPal at all, or any kind of recurring payment processor? Show code. Now we have a nested. Post. Yeah, I think this Stripe has a really nice docs, pretty cool developer experience, and a very flexible domain model that can fit all sorts of business models. which is probably the most important part. The developer experience is important, but congruency or flexibility, at least, to implement your own, domain logic is the most important. Not that you have to do contortions to fit into the payment processor logic. I think PayPal is sort of, maybe, I don't know. This is my first experience, so everything I say is, full of newbiness. But yeah, auto renewal. So this, I want it to be an object. Quantity 1. See, what I'm thinking here is this has just got to be, this plan ID has to be predefined. I have to actually define a plan type in PayPal, which is okay. We can do it, but it's just not as flexible. So let's just see here. Because what that means from a user experience is they, rather than being able to just to choose if you want paper, PDF, or both, and then the true cost, they have to look at a drop-down list with all the permutations of all those options. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I could. Yeah, because both of these options essentially affect the price at the end of the day. These more or less are kind of coefficients, percentage-based discount type thing. This is the base cost in a way. So it's a dynamic calculation or static table of options, which not the greatest user experience. So we've got an access token. Yeah, and plan is where the billing cycles are defined, so that's the problem. The idea of the plan. This documentation is like pretty, I mean, that's self-explanatory, but what does that mean? That's just poor documentation. What's the plan come from? What's the concept that it's relating to? Maybe it's obvious, but you have to navigate a hierarchy of documentation. And everything points to the subscriptions integration. If I want to have any kind of recurring billing, you have to first define the plans, and it leads me back to the same circle of having all the plans in a table means that all the permutations, there's like, I don't know how many, 14, 12, something options, I don't know. So that won't work. Closest I can come is here. If I take this code I generated in HTML and I right here actually, and more or less paste it in, this is going to send a post to PayPal. I'm in this chasing situation. I want to validate things on our server before I send anything to PayPal. I want a simple form with just 2 fields that dynamically calculate the subscription cost. I can validate the pricing on our server side, because this can have a corresponding base price and this can have a corresponding more or less multiplier or flat rate discount, so it's a whole number, something like that. But in any case, it's just it's a label and a value. This is a label and it's not too difficult of a data model. So if we send a request to our server, we can check that things haven't been tampered with, then pay PayPal. The Braintree does it really good, because all Braintree needs is the payment amount for a one-off payment, and it hashes everything. So this, from the server to the client, they can't really tamper with it. On the server, we hash the price into the form where the user submits their payment details, and that gets forwarded to Braintree. Once they submit, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it was really clean and it just worked. I just couldn't get recurring subscriptions in Braintree without defining things awkwardly. I'm not super excited about this. I think Stripe would be pretty much on a good path with good user experience. All right, so let's just continue down this road. So I have a form with some hidden values that people may tamper with. All right, so they click the subscribe button, they're redirected to PayPal, which is another kind of a bummer. With Braintree and with Stripe, the user stays right there on the site. Oh yeah, because it happens round trip to JavaScript round trip to submit the payment to Braintree. On success, that hash comes back, so you can validate the whole way that not only the amount but the customer ID was intact, and then it sends a request to our server, so we know that the customer paid the right amount. This is like going back to the 90s or something. Not that it's bad, but I think this is just a step back. Words backwards. And I keep rereading this subscriptions documentation. Basically what I'm going to have to do is either re-implement a user interface in Django to allow us to define these subscription types, or use the PayPal UI and just populate that big static list of all these subscription types. Let's continue down this path just for a bit more to see, for the sake of exploration. None of these sound really stellar. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and just delete this whole form. These are more or less correct. I've got a mock-up of this form. And we're not running. Oh, we are. All right, so we got a subscription button. Woohoo! Now the main metadata come in these hidden fields. I can use JavaScript to calculate these dynamically at runtime. That's cool. But everything on the client is untrusted, even though you might be in a trusted community. So that means I'm going to have to pass basically the pricing structure to the client. It looks like we're going to be trending towards just having a big list of options, unfortunately. I'm just worried if, worst case scenario, I suppose, somebody tampers with the values, goes through, makes a PayPal payment, we get the instant payment notification. In that, we validate that, or we recognize that the payment had been tampered with because it didn't line up with the choices. How do we notify PayPal just to roll back that transaction? Or what do we do in that case? That's the worst case scenario, I think. That they try to get a free payment, a free subscription, or yeah. It's really, we're not talking about a lot of loss. It's not a high risk endeavor. I want it to be really simple, flexible. So this is not too much code to be unbearable, and I can control this variable. Let me find the mockup real quick. So I've got Bootstrap Studio over here. This is a pretty cool tool if you're interested in web development and web design. If it runs, there it goes, live stream effect. So here's our mockup, and Mary likes this. Essentially, you know, you either a drop down or a radio select. You select your format, the discount, and these are wrong, but or maybe I did adjust this, I don't remember, but in any case, whether or not it's recurring is another thing we'll have to take into account. Based on the combination of these choices, that'll determine the subscription rate. Yeah, this is pretty cool, just a nice design tool, so I don't have to fiddle so much with the markup. And if we want to grab the HTML, I think I can just paste it in there now. It's got a lot of features. So I think we'll need all this. And really the field set can be in the form. It's not essential though. What matters is that things are indented correctly and that PayPal can access these hidden attributes when we send that post. Yeah, so this is what we're after. And then swap out that button though. Come back to that later. Okay, so here's where the fun part comes in, I suppose. We can use LightDOM to dynamically calculate these prices. I'll have to come up with a data structure on the server side to allow us to define the pricing values. Initially, I can hard code it so that when this form is rendered, it has the pricing structure, and it passes that into JavaScript so LightDOM can do validation or dynamic pricing adjustments, as well as perhaps validating when the form is submitted. I don't know. I think that's still subject to user manipulation. So yeah, all that needs to change here. So let's go ahead and check out LightDOM again. This is just a lightweight alternative to Vue.js and React. 3 kilobytes, web components, and what they mean is web components, not React components or Vue components or Angular components. They mean like web, HTML5, W3C, Web World Web Consortium, web components, using the custom element, standard template, JavaScript template literals, I guess. The reactive has got 2- and 1-way data binding, event handling, props, lifecycle state. It's like everything. It allows what I think is a killer feature. You can use a declarative UI language called HTML. Yeah, so all we need is essentially to include LightDOM. It's only got like 2 core maintainers, so there's always that chance that it could blip off the radar. Another big killer feature, I think, there's no dependencies. Doesn't have to have a virtual DOM. The DOM is not our enemy. And it doesn't need any build tools. It's just so simple. And it just works. It's just a Vue library. That's all I need. I don't need a whole React front end or something like that. We just want to enhance incrementally. Incrementally that's an interesting word. I don't know, because I think we're going to not be able to incrementally enhance this. This is going to be fundamentally dependent on JavaScript. But yeah, check it out. So let's just copy and paste. It's extra.js. Now this is just optional. This is Django templating syntax. You don't need to name the block that you're ending. It's just a good, makes it more clear. Now, in our base template, we don't include the script tags, so we'd have to put that. This is a key. LightDOM uses ECMAScript modules. I think this is ES 2015 modules, so they've been around a while. They've got wide browser support, but that means this won't be necessarily incrementally enhancing a website for older browsers like Internet Explorer 9 or something like that. So it's a conscious decision to make. So we got LightDOM. We're going to enable LightDOM on our whole form element, I think. Let's call it PayPal form for now. Even though I don't want it. Might not matter. All right, so what that's going to do is bind it to this DOM and give us the data binding we want. Which is defined here. So our data is going to be different. It's going to be structured differently. We're going to have a 2-way data binding. So just let me check the data binding here in the template. There's the event binding. One cool thing about this is it uses single braces, so it doesn't already clash with the Django templating language, which uses double curly braces. Just simple. I don't know, just a nice thing because when I've integrated Vue.js with Django, typically people are just using Vue or React as their whole front end, and I think that's overkill for most projects. But that's their decision. But if you just want to incrementally enhance Django templates with Vue, then you immediately have the problem where your templates collide because Django uses double curly braces in Vue. I don't have an example here. So yeah, but it's not hard. You just have to look up in the docs how to tell Vue to only use single curly braces for its template delimiter. This is using single. I don't know if that's JavaScript template interpolation. I think it uses parentheses, then single braces, if I recall correctly. Yeah, $. So that would be a little bit more idiomatic, $, and then curly braces. In any case, it's all right. Actually, that would be a good feature request here. All right, where's our two-way data binding? I've seen it down and up. I think it's just colon. No, this is if else. There's a click handler. Oh, here we are. So this form, just add bind form.name. All right. So we're going to add bind. Let's just define our data structure first. So this would be subscription type. Empty string is okay. No, it's format and discount. And just this is subject to change. I'm just going to use it as a coefficient. So on our input, we bind it still with the @bind symbol. I think I can just, when we bind that to this property, which can be a string, and I could use that as a key, a dictionary key to access the member corresponding value. All right, cool. So let's just go with that and then just display it underneath of it. And then single braces, that's just, yeah, it's just discount. Okay. Okay, well that's kind of working not as I expected though. Hey, what's up? Keeping trouble with this account? Welcome back. Good seeing you. Good seeing all these familiar faces. I think you were here last time when I was using LightDOM, when I was working with this library. It's a pretty cool library. I just got to figure out how it works. So we've got a value. It's actually referring to a DOM element. Did I do app bind form dot? Yeah, let me just double check then. I should just be able to use the data right inside there, I think. Oh, this dot. Discount. All right. Which makes sense. Kind of. Yes. No. All right. Dang it. Too many things open. I don't need methods, but is there a reactive or an event? I guess an event would be to fire a method. So we know it's got the right element. I've got data. You can have top level properties in the data object. Let's just clear out some of the DOM here. What we're kind of after is sort of, I don't know if it's two-way data binding is necessary here, but when this, form changes. Okay, so all right, so we've got inputs binding to a value, and then just displaying it in the template. The other is here, the value needs to be set, so that could be the case that the value is not set in my code, in my markup. Nope, there it is. It's there. Man. So they're all bound to the discount property. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I bound it to a. That's why I was echoing out or printing out a HTML element, because I bound them to the div instead of the input. Okay, cool. Yeah, easy slip up. This markup came from the Bootstrap designer thing. So that's one of the gotchas. If you don't write your own markup, it's not obvious to you how things are working. Excuse me. Now we should be good. Now it's going to show. Reload. KSD, low income, international. Good. Good. What I can define is just a dictionary. Two dictionaries. One is for format with base cost. The other is for discount with a label and a value, like the coefficient value. And I can use those in a handler to calculate that, or just actually it's looking it up in a dictionary. And then it'll dynamically toggle, just reactively toggle the output of that method will be bound. Probably we'll just set another data property, which will be bound here. All right, I think this will work out. So at least from the client side, man, user experience can be simple. But prone to, dang, oh, I gotta be right back. Cool, sorry for the interruption. So yeah, let's take it one step further. I'm just gonna deal with the fact that this is prone to tampering in a future live coding session. I'm in a branch, so we're not, out anything if this is not the right solution. It's cool. This is an experiment. So what I want to do is just kind of simulate what would come from the server side. I believe we'll be able to now define our subscription structure on the server. So that'll be nice. And calculate things dynamically when the user chooses various values, and then send PayPal just the fact that we need a recurring payment. We don't need to use its kind of domain model. Even though it's similar to ours, it's too rigid, because you have to predefine these subscriptions and show the user, most importantly, show the user a big list of pre-configured subscription options, which we might have to do in the end of the day. I don't know. So let's just say we've got both, and Addons is another thing that's coming over from Braintree, which we don't need anymore. So essentially we've got two lists. We've got a format lists, and format options list, and a discount options list. Let's go ahead and create those. And you have to use okay. You know, if constant let will make us anyway. Two contemporary. And each option is essentially a dictionary with a label. Base price. That can be sort of JavaScript-y. think it would be nice if we could just say that the print subscriptions come with a PDF, but in any case, whatever, we don't. I think it's a little bit more. If I'm wrong, I'll just fix it. This is just an experiment. What I'm going to do is use these lists to automatically generate the select options. So we've got true cost, 200%. Okay, so let me think here for a second here. I think it's going to be a 2x multiplier. Well, figure that out later. What would be the most natural thing for the end user, being the editor or the person who's defining these subscriptions? Would be the most natural concept for them would be discount, probably percentage or something, or flat rate. The problem is, might not be a problem. Oh yeah. The problem is not flat rate. It varies depending on what your selection is up here. I might be able to convince Mary to just have true cost be a flat rate discount, but no, I don't think so. So for now, I'm just gonna do multiplier. In other words, the true cost discount for PDF is like $20, but the true cost multiplier for the print would be 40. So I can have a flat rate there, or the outcome would be 40. So you'd be adding 20 and adding 10 in that case. I've got a table in the spreadsheet about this. It's not simple-ish. It's just arithmetic, but these are difficult to model in software. And sometimes it's difficult to convince people to change the way that their human systems work and the pricing structures they've devised for the sake of simplicity in software. So it's not really important, to be honest. So this would be the regular cost, which will be 1 multiplier of 1 times, and let's just say this would be low income, and it will be 0.5. And international. Let's say 1.5. All right, so we got those option lists. Cool. There's something I should be committing here. Well, it's just gonna be a big fat commit. Who you calling fat? Now, do we need? There's actually, now that I think about it, these discount options and things should be defined in the data here. Okay, there we go. What did I do wrong? Why are you? Does it not like? Oh, yeah. We're in a different context now. Here we go. Now, when either of these changes, I want that method to be invoked, recalculate it, set the property called formatter discount. And then one more property called subscription costs. So I think we'll be good to go. Oh. And in a way, we will want to tell, we might want to tell PayPal the subscription type and discount option so that metadata is kept in both places. I'm not sure how it'll work out. I'll just put that in there. I'll look more into the PayPal HTML attributes in a minute, the hidden attributes. What I think we can do is control this item name metadata, so we would have all the details there, or note, something like that, or the item number. All right, we'll be good, I believe, as long as we're consistent. And the main deal is that the editor of the magazine can cross-reference the records against payments and ship out the paper subscription to the people who need it. I'll have to figure out how to handle this recurrence if somebody says no, not recurring, but it might be that these fields just go away or something. Again, I'll look up all those references in a minute. Or it could be that we even just swap out two forms, one for a payment, one for a subscribe form, sort of they almost look the exact same. Or swap out the field set. I don't know. All right, so nothing's really changed in DOM, but what we're going to do is iterate over these values. We get a for loop. Essentially for equals, what was it? Python or a snake case or camel case. That's a mixture. Yeah. Good to go. All right, so we'll have a div. Let's just say input. See if this works even. So these will go away, and now we'll just have a repeat of that times 3. All right, all right, all right. It did work. It was kind of slow. Interesting. Cool. So we need this essentially for each form check, then we need an input. And then a label inside the input. Good, Loki, having a good time out there. They all have the same name. This will just be format. And that should do it, except they can't be checked. So they can't all be checked. Cool. And let's just echo out, print out the format. All right, let's see if this works. Refresh the page. What are we at? 1.5 hours. That worked. and PDF print, and the value is coming through. Cool. All right, I'm going to repeat this, probably commit this. I think this is taking a good direction. I'm not going to go too much further tonight. I want to, before I go full all in on this particular approach, I need to discuss some of the caveats with Mary, particularly about well, just the fact that this client-side code can be modified by the user. I just need to double check it on the server side after the transaction has occurred in PayPal. I need to do a little bit more research off stream if there's a way to I guess reverse a transaction if the transaction has succeeded with a user modified payload. If they manipulated the price successful, like to $1 or something, and then successfully made the transaction, and we realize that it's been modified, so we won't activate the subscription on our side of things, but we also want PayPal to revert that. I'll just have to read up on how that handle that. It's the worst case I can think of. It might not be a big deal. Otherwise, this is coming together nicely, and I'll be able to have methods to dynamically calculate the costs. And the cool thing is we'll be able to use Django to store the base price for the format and the coefficient for the discount, and then serialize those Django values to JSON on the server when rendering the template, right in line with this light DOM code. It'll look a little bit janky to mix those two together, but I think it won't be too big of a deal. I haven't found a reactive DOM templating option that treats the DOM as the first class citizen in terms of data provenance. Usually the state is managed in JavaScript. That's just kind of de facto. I'm really glad that Light DOM and Vue, for that matter, treat HTML as a first-class citizen, as it should be, and don't reinvent HTML as some kind of language in JavaScript. I think this is a good balance. So let's go ahead and repeat this process. We'll just take a quick peek at the markup here. And yeah, we can see, that's interesting. So there's some extra metadata and extra attributes added by Light DOM, which is kind of cool. But yeah, the value is there, and I can use that value to look up a hierarchical, I believe, pricing structure in JavaScript that's generated from Django. We'll take a look at that next session. All right, so let's go ahead and render out these. So I'm gonna just copy and paste. This whole thing worked good. And what we really need is just this. And these don't really need. Oh yeah. I think we're more or less going to be good to go there. Put this small in a new line. That markup again is generated by Bootstrap Studio, which is cool. I like the tool overall. Now this is slightly different. We got a label, a value. Those are consistent, but no, those are the same. The multiplier is what we're after. So actually, I'll come back to the price calculation. I might as well say the multiplier here is the value, but I think we still want to preserve the value to concatenate them together as the final name of the subscription instance for record keeping. I'll think about it more thoroughly. The problem is now I'll have to use well, it's not a big deal. I can use filter since these are all unique. Oh, these are all unique. In any case, I can use filter on this list to get the multiplier based on a key, the value of this value property. I'll figure it out when my brain is a little bit more clear. Let me get this rendered into the DOM. My brain's never going to be more clear, but it's wishful thinking. This is the recurrence. I'll have to figure that one out. Talk to Mary about how we're going to handle that. I think ideally it would just be they're all recurring, and then people can cancel it. They can manage their subscription through PayPal, but we do want to respect people's wishes and give them the option to not have a recurring one. User experience here takes precedent over the code. My developer experience, and in my developer experience, I think takes precedent over PayPal's domain model. So this is what we've got to kind of work with. Those are the priorities that I believe are important. So yeah, this I think will work. We got labels and values. But we do sort of want to multiply. What did I do? What did I do? Okay, I'm iterating over the wrong tools. Not that. So instead of iterating over format options, we want to iterate over discount options. Looks good. All right. Recurrence, I'll come back to. Yeah, I'll commit. This is a big blob of a commit. But essentially what we've done, got a testing subscription. I don't know if I need to commit this. It's all a test, so maybe I don't need to commit any of it until we're firm that this is the direction we want to go. I'll demo it. But yeah, essentially what I've done today is just taken this, where is it? Where is it? Oh my goodness, it's hard to, nope, we're done there. I haven't had to use Postwoman. I mean, I used it trying to create a subscription, realized that we have to predefine all the subscription types, so that's probably not the most ideal way forward. Okay, so that was a quick experiment with the sort of the PayPal REST API approach. Similar with Python SDK, it'll be the same problem, just wrapping this HTTP API and a Python interface, meaning before we can subscribe or create a subscription instance, we'll have to define all these plans, which are permutations of format and discount. So it's like 12 options, and it's kind of not the most ideal user experience. We're really aiming for this. This is our mock-up. So what I've been working on today is just to take this wireframe that I made, more or less mock-up in Bootstrap Studio, and turn it into a little bit of a dynamically generated form. Here, actually rendering in the browser as a test template. And to recap the code, we've got a view rendering in Django. We don't have any view code right now. We don't have anything to process on the server side. So this is just an HTML template. It renders a form and a couple of field sets, where in each field set we iterate over some options, format options in this case, and render inputs and labels for each format options, and we're echoing it out or putting it back out. And then likewise for the discount options, so we have format and discount options. We're just iterating for each of those and binding an input and value to a JavaScript object that we'll be looking at in just a second. And we've got a label there. Then there's just some other static templating relating things. We'll need to figure out how to handle people that choose not to have recurring subscription. It might just be a matter of, if they select no recurring subscription, to toggle these values, like disable them or something, so we don't have something recurring every 1 year. Also, this subscription cost value will be dynamically computed. We'll follow up with that next session. So here's the JavaScript code. We're using this really cool project called LightDOM. It's one of the, probably my favorite kind of reactive view libraries that I've found on the web. It's comparable in some ways to React.js or Vue.js, but much lighter. It follows, adheres very closely to web standards. It gives you reactive data binding. both one-way and two-way. It's got similar concepts to what people working with React and Vue and Angular are used to. Properties, lifecycle, callbacks, and managing the DOM state, computing properties and directives. But it's so lightweight, there's no major dependencies. It doesn't even need a virtual DOM. DOM is not our enemy. It's not as maybe slow or bad as it's been made out to be. And no JavaScript build tool baggage. You don't need to commit your whole front-end framework to a framework, and you can still use the power of Django templating language or other projects if you're in Laravel or something that has its own built-in templating capabilities. You can just sprinkle this in and have a little bit of reactive. It's not quite progressively enhanced because you still the DOM state is still managed in JavaScript, and this is not, so it won't function in a way without, our form won't function without JavaScript basically. But that's another thing I need to just run by Mary to make sure she's okay with that. And then, so finally, let's just take a look at the light DOM code for our project. Whoops, I keep trying to maximize that. And essentially, you define an ES 2015 module. So these have been around a while. They're supported in pretty much all major evergreen browser at this point. So if you look at can I use ES modules, we're in good company there. We import the library from one package. I could include it in our project. At some point, you create an instance of the light DOM with sort of a configuration object. And inside that configuration object, what you do is you just tell the element to which the component should attach, meaning the reactivity and the state management and everything. So in our case, I've got a form element on the page up here, PayPal form, and we're just saying light DOM, go ahead and take over this whole form. I could, if I wanted, just have light DOM to take over a subset of fields just by wrapping them in a div. But nothing in the form is really sensitive or going to leak, or, I mean, there's no reason that I can think of that light DOM couldn't just handle the form. It won't handle the form submit event to my understanding. That could be one area that I'll have to check. And after that, we are able to manage some data reactively. We created properties for format and discount, meaning the format of our magazine and any discount multiplier coefficient. We populate, this is hard-coded, but this will ideally be coming from the back end. We'll look in future sessions about how to pass data from Django directly into the JavaScript context in templates without having to throw away the Django templating language. So essentially it's just, label value, and this with the format options, we've got a base price, and for the discount options, we have a multiplier. I'll figure out the best way to define those in code, and then this will be dynamically calculated. We have not gotten to that yet, nor have I actually displayed it in the template. It'll be down here. I'll reorganize the template next time. So essentially what we've done is just to take these lists of format and discount options and render them into the DOM by using a for loop and the light DOM library. But I'm really impressed by light DOM. It's not it's not super extensive library, so I guess it doesn't have to have crazy amount of documentation. I guess you can just learn how to use the library in under an hour particularly if you've already used Vue or React or something like that. So we'll be looking through the docs a little bit more, particularly these methods. We'll need to trigger these on events when those DOM elements change. We're going to recompute the subscription cost and pass that into the hidden attribute here for PayPal. Okay, well, this has been another CodeBuddies.org live code session. Thank you all for hanging out. Cyber Guy Rich, it's good seeing you. Imperium 42, keeping track of this account. I'm glad to see familiar faces coming back to the stream. And let me know how you're doing with your projects. Maybe we can do some pair programming on your projects, for example. Imperium 42, I'll be glad to know how your Django path is going. If you want to do some Django work, I can steer you towards a couple of kind of low-hanging fruit, easier tasks on these open source projects I've been working on. All right. And in general, if you want to get involved with with a really great community, stop by codebuddies.org. There's a lot of different study groups and hangouts happening all the time. So you can, if you're not interested in Python and Django, there's something there to suit your fancy. We got data science, Java, JavaScript, React. It's all good. It's all fair game. Just find out what you're interested in and get connected with the community. CodeBuddies.org is also an open source project. It's currently being rewritten. The React front end, and with a React front end and a Django back end, it looks like those are the primary candidate implementations. If you want to get involved with a friendly and grassroots open source project, stop by github.com/codebuddies. Thanks again for hanging out, everybody. Have a great day and stay well out there.